This is the Gotham podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're here for the final episode of The Penguin, episode 8, A Great or Little Thing.
He was with him, Rex. He lied to me. He came home, acting all sad, like he was the victim, but he knew. My babies were drowning in those tunnels, and he didn't say a goddamn word. He had every goddamn chance to say something, to do something, anything. To stop it.
He's a kid.
He locked him inside. The room where they found him, the cops told me they had to pry the door open to reach him. If I had known if he had, I could have saved them, they'd be here with me right now. But Oswald didn't want that, though. This is what he wanted, me, all to himself. I got the devil in my house, Rex. What the hell am I supposed to do?
Welcome back, fellow Gothamites, to TV Podcast Industries and the Gotham Podcast, where we are talking all things The Penguin, Episode 8, A Great or Little Thing, the final episode in this series. I am one of your waddling hosts, John.
I'm your other host, Derek. I guess I've been waddling. We've been pretty sedentary for the last
since
couple
I did
of
my
months.
back in, I've been waddling.
Yes, definitely. But
I just now need the full metal regalia on around my foot and leg.
Yeah, hopefully not. You're not that bad. You've been walking pretty well last week or two, which is good.
No, absolutely.
Which is good. But John, what a way to celebrate our 10th anniversary of podcasting from Gotham TV Podcast all the way back. We came back to the land of Gotham for The Penguin, and this series has been absolutely stellar.
Yeah,
It?
absolutely superb.
Oh.
Really, really enjoyed this series. I really want another one, another series, another season of this show looking at the Penguin. Because for me, the Penguin's a great character, and provides that kind of really natural link between the Falcones and the Maronis and so on. But I also just think he connects in really well with just other characters in the Batverse that I enjoy, like the Riddler and Mad Hatter. Like I really like those characters in Batman, and that's why I loved Matt Reeves's Batman film, because it brought the Riddler. I love the Riddler so much. I love the Mad Hatter, and Penguin I've always really, really enjoyed.
Absolutely. Well, we did get them all in Gotham, and that TV show for 5 seasons. We got all those characters, all major parts in there, so maybe they can do that. What we do know, though, for definite is, as confirmed by Colin Farrell this week, he will have 5 or 6 scenes in the Batman 2 movie, so this isn't the last we've seen of Penguin and Francis Cobb, which is cool. And also confirmed by Matt Reeves, they are looking at other possibilities for other shows spinning out of the Batverse, out of the Batman movies.
Excellent.
And they will be dealt with in the same way, he says, as they've dealt with the Penguin show. So not confirming a second season for this show, but saying that there will be other characters that will get the treatment like this show has. And if they do it as well as this, I'll be tuning in anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So good. I mean, really, I hope lightning strikes twice, because I wouldn't want them to think, oh, we've got a method here or a formula. This formula has been created by Lauren LeFranc, and I think
so good.
At its heart is the Penguin, played by Colin Farrell. For me, it is then Victor Aguilar, played by Renzi Feliz, and it's Francis Cobb, played by Deirdre O'Connell. It's about family, and indeed, whilst not part of the Cobb family, the family also includes Kristen Milioti here playing Sofia Falcone. Absolutely, all 4 of them as leads, quite frankly, even with smaller screen time absolutely superb. And at its heart, the thing I've enjoyed the most is Victor and Oz's relationship.
Without
and
a doubt.
that's why this episode hits hard.
Yeah.
But all these dual relationships, Oz and Sophia, or Oz and Francis, have been really, really good.
They've been so good. Absolutely brilliant.
Meaningful, impactful, like full of great storytelling.
Yeah.
And that is down to Lauren LeFranc. What a great idea.
Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. What a great showrunner she's been for this show, and I hope we see more from her in the future, whatever she chooses to do. And I hope that what they take from this is setting something in the Batman universe between the movies. So when we get the end of Batman 2, maybe a character can spin out of that into its own show, and seeing the success that Colin Farrell has had here with his version of the Penguin in this show. Even he said he was completely taken aback by how well received it's been as well. So hopefully that's the method they'll take, that they'll spin out a great character and do a great story in a great way.
Absolutely. But before we get into our spoiler-filled discussion, fellow Gothamites, please remember, if you haven't already done so, to subscribe to TV Podcast Industries over at tvpodcastindustries.com on any ornithological or gangster podcast player of your choice. Please also join our group if you want to send in some thoughts, theories, observations, or comments about each and every episode that we've covered. Just head on over to facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. And you can also send in feedback through email to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com.
That's also the place to send in your answers to our Iceberg Lounge quiz. The final question for that will be coming up later in the podcast. And when we do our wrap-up episode on the Penguin in a couple of weeks' time, we will announce the winner of the Penguin goodies.
Wah. Let's get into our spoiler-filled discussion. Wah.
You're really going to miss doing that, aren't you?
Yeah, indeed.
He does it all the time, even when we're not podcasting.
Batman 66.
True, absolutely. Burgess Meredith.
Yeah. Indeedly, doodly, wah. Doodly. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, this show, of course, is based on characters created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane for Detective Comics, spinning out of Matt Reeves The Batman under showrunner Lauren LeFranc, and this episode is, of course, written by Lauren LeFranc herself. The episode was directed by Jennifer Getzinger. This is our only episode of The Penguin, but we have discussed Jennifer so many times on TV Podcast Industry. She directed episodes of Agent Carter, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and most recently, she directed the 6th episode of the Star Wars series Ahsoka as well.
Excellent stuff. I love it when a plan comes together.
Absolutely. I love when our wonderful directors from previous shows that we've loved continue on working in genre shows that we also love.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
And John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for The Penguin, Episode 8, A Greater Little Thing?
Sure. At the former Monroe Jazz Club, Sofia Gigante uses Dr. Julian Rush's experience to take Francis Cobb back to her youth. She recalls meeting with local gangster Rex Callibrasi to discuss her son, Oz Cobb. She always knew that Oz was the one who killed her other sons, Jack and Benny, but despite being given every opportunity, Oz never took responsibility for their murders. Rex gives the struggling mother two options: either nurture Oz's tendencies, give him purpose, and he could be something great, or Rex will help her let him go. Planning to have Rex murder Oz, she takes him out to Monroe's for one final night. But as Oz promises to take care of her if she'll give him a chance, Francis calls off the kill. In the present day, Sophia uses his knowledge to encourage Oz to finally admit to murdering his brothers, but even with the threat of Francis losing a finger, Oz continues his lies. Incensed, Francis disowns him and stabs him with a broken bottle, but Francis has a stroke and falls to the ground. Using this as a distraction, Oz breaks free, killing Sophia's guards and GCPD Detective Marcus Wise, honourable mention, before driving his ma to the hospital. Meanwhile, Victor Aguilar fails to convince the leaders of the other gangs of Gotham to help Crown Point following Sophia's car bomb. Oz Cobb calls him to the hospital, where Victor convinces him that he's important to the city. Oz makes a final play. He meets with Councilman Hady at City Hall, telling him the car bomb was just the latest in the tit-for-tat battle between the Falcone and Maroney family. If the councilman brings in Sofia Gigante, the city will be very grateful. All he wants in return is the ear of the influential people of Gotham. Elsewhere, Sofia has decided to leave everything behind, so she offers the gang leaders the Falcone's home, territories, and businesses to the one who brings her, Oz Cobb. The Triad's second-in-command, Ling, uses his relationship with Victor to get to Oz. As Sofia is burning her past, she arranges for Oz's transfer at another location. But it's a trap. Spurred on by Oz and Victor, Ling turns on his boss, Mr. Zhao, killing him. As Oz captures Sofia and turns her over to the GCPD, the tide of Gotham's underworld changes, as all the bosses are taken out by their disrespected underbosses and followers. Oz takes Victor back to the hospital to celebrate his final success with Francis, but he learns that her stroke has left her immobile and non-verbal. Unable to get the approval he sought from his mother, Victor commiserates with Oz. Realizing his closeness with the kid has become truly familial, Oz strangles and kills him, disposing of his ID in Gotham Bay and his last shred of weakness. Sofia is unresponsive as she sits in a cell in Arkham, once again under the care of Dr. Julian Rush. He brings her a letter from someone claiming to be her half-sister, someone called Selina Kyle. Now the king of Gotham's underworld, Oz finally sets the vegetative Francis up in a penthouse overlooking the city. As a tear rolls down her face, Oz dances with Eve. She's dressed as his ma and tells Oz how proud she is of him. He believes there's nothing left to stop him as, unseen by Oz, the bat signal rises over Gotham.
And there we have the cameo of the bat signal
A nice little touch, actually.
I thought it was great. And, you know, one of the things I'll compliment the show for is the cameos it chose to bring in from the movie The Batman are the characters who are on the edges of the usually central story, the Jim Gordons and the Batman and Bruce Wayne and Alfred. It's all of those characters that have kind of filled in the big world of that movie. So you can see why Oz has been able to be in the cracks around the margins, kind of until this moment. You know, I don't think the bat signal is going up for Oz Cobb dancing with Eve at the end of the episode. It's just showing Batman is in the city. The whole point of the Batman movie was that Batman can't be everywhere, and why would he pay attention to Oz Cobb in this particular time? But he will pay attention to him in the future.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's whether he's big enough, critical enough to be on the Batman's radar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Or sonar.
And he probably will be. I like
yes,
that.
Indeed.
Well, let's present our case file for the final episode of the show, John.
Yes, let's get into our top 5 case notes. First up, case note number 1. Surprise, surprise.
Uh-huh.
I still remember.
Okay, I chose the case note names after songs, just in case you start to get creeped out by the way they've written them. But the first one is, of course, I still remember, because the episode opens with Francis going back to her youth through the abilities of Dr. Julian Rush. We finally find out what he was talking to Sofia about when he said, when you catch Oz, I'll use my talents. So his talent is being able to regress Francis back to the point when she found out, or when she had the discussion with Rex Callibrasi about what to do about her son Oz. She's always known that he's responsible for the murder of his brothers.
Yeah, absolutely. She finds a flashlight in Oz's coat pocket and knows that he was with them when they were playing hide and seek, and not the story that he told her, that they had gone off to the cinema and he hadn't been playing with them.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of really interesting here. It is that notion of living with the devil. She says, I have the devil in my house. What do I do?
Yeah.
Seeking counsel from Rex Callibrasi. And I really like, actually, that, he gives 2 options here.
Yes.
You can let him go which is effectively, and he says, and I can help you with that, which is effectively bump him off, smother him under a pillow or kill him in some way, or that he can serve a purpose. And I like how Rex kind of plays this with people within his own sphere who come looking for him. He says, if they're looking for money, money doesn't buy loyalty. Yeah. But if they're looking for a father, that does. Now, Oz isn't looking for a father because he's got you.
Yes.
You've got the loyalty of Oz Cobb, so he can serve a purpose. So like Rex calls it about, they can either serve a purpose or you let them go. And in this case, that's the other option, that he serves a purpose.
And there's so much in this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much is going on. All the way through the season, we've heard Oz talk about this Rex Callibrasi, this huge character in his childhood, this person that he aspires to be. And here we actually learn that his mom had hired Rex, or had asked Rex to kill Oz when he was a kid. This person that Oz had looked up to could have been the death of him that night back in the day. Also love the touches from Deirdre O'Connell. I think are fantastic. The moment where she sits down at the table and there's just marks still on the table from her other kids, and it all comes across in how she performs it. She's not saying anything, but she's looking at these little dents in the table that are reminding her of the other children that the son that's still living with her killed.
Yeah.
Just a really interesting touches in there. And also the other thing that comes out of it is Rex is saying she needs to nurture it. So that now explains why Francis has been this monster nurturing mother for the last 30 years or so.
But and that's what's so good. She has decided, dare I say it, to use an original Batman movie phrase, to dance with the devil in the pale moonlight.
There you go.
Like she really has. We also see Francis, the other side of that story of her taking Oz to Monroe's. The previous tale of this was where it's kind of she snaps out of her grief, really, and her and Oz make the pact that he will, provide for her. He won't give up, and he won't give up on his mum, and effectively lavishes his mother with praise. Here we see, don't give up on me, Oz saying to his mum, because I won't give up on you, dance with me. And that, in a sense, either knowingly or unknowingly for Oz Cobb in that moment, he's made that pact with his mother.
Yes.
And sealed it with the dance.
Exactly.
As she kind of, nods to Rex Callibrasi to sort of leave off and sort of stop the hit effectively on her own son.
I love that she does that, and I also love that the music that's playing when they go into Monroe's, when we find them first, is Let's Face the Music and Dance, which is a kind of a little gag on the fact that she has to own up to this. She has to look her son in the eye and accept what he did and then nurture him in the way that Rex has told her to. I think that's really interesting. Also a cool touch that we know that Julian is the one in control here, because we see Julian and Sofia sitting in the corner of Monroe's in the past, and then it cuts to Oz in the present day, having been captured by the GCPD detective and brought to the present day Monroe's and Sophia's.
Well, you also get the Cylon Red as well.
You do,
from
of course.
His little device to help with this recollection.
Yes, you do. It's used in treatment of people with PTSD to help them explore what had happened in the past. It's a real psychological device, or psychology device, I guess you call it.
Very good.
Yeah. But this was all a ploy from Sofia to get the two sides of the story so that the Cobbs could finally go at each other. She's hoping that she can tear the family apart by getting them to admit the truth to each other. I think this is so interesting. Again, Kristen Milioti is so devilish here herself, trying to get the two of them to admit. She wants Francis Cobb to admit that she wanted her son killed and was going to have her son killed when he was a kid, and she wants Oz to admit he's the one that murdered his brothers. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, this is really intense, actually. And I mean, I love the way that it's played by both Francis and Oz here, that really, in a sense, it's who's going to break first, and it's not Oz Cobb here.
Oh, yeah.
It is Francis. But, you have Sofia sort of probing and saying, we know what you did. You act effectively towards your mum. You tell her everything, and she acts as though she believes you. You have Sofia saying, to Francis directly, what did you lose by keeping him alive? Not just her sons, but what in herself did she lose by keeping him alive? And even with, trying to cut off Francis's pinky with the cigar cutter, Oz is still not telling the truth about what he did to his brothers. And he keeps refusing it.
It's her disease,
keeps refusing, despite, again, being goaded by Sofia to admit it. And it's ultimately Francis that breaks here and telling him, I already know, I hate you, I've always hated you. It's just the whole thing. The whole scene is fantastic for me because, you have Sofia saying you don't care about her enough like you say you do. For Oz to his mother, effectively her pinky almost coming off. And then, you couldn't even tell her the truth here. And Francis is in bits here. I should have let Rex kill you when I had the chance. And ultimately breaks a bottle and stabs him in the stomach.
Yeah.
And this whole scene is just so goddamn intense. It's a quintuple, an octuple espresso. It's so intense.
It really, really is. And that moment when you realize Oz is not going to tell the truth, despite the fact that everybody in the room knows the truth. They've all heard it. Francis knows the fact that he's saying it's her disease that's making her think that she did it. And I'm going to let everybody in on this, John. While watching the episode the first time, John said, do you think that's actually true? Do you think that Julian has actually used his powers to convince Francis that Oz is the one that killed him? Because you're still, at this point in the episode, you're still thinking maybe they're going to have this arc for Oz that he is a kind of good guy that's just trying to make it up to his mom. But in that moment when Sofia looks at him and says, you don't love her the way you say you love her. It's only yourself that you love, and you're looking for her approval, and that's it. That's all you want from her. You realize that the motivations behind Oz Cobb are really villainous. All he wants is his mom to say, I'm proud of you for being as villainous as you are. It's really interesting for this character and makes this show a villain show, not a redemption arc for a villain previously known by us. And I love it. Absolutely brilliant.
I think that is it. It's portrayed so well that you're just going, is this all just kind of made up, or is it not? And again, it's to the themes that we've had across the series about, I've never really understood you. And actually, by the end of this episode, we do hear Sofia saying, I finally met you. Like, she understands who he is.
Yes.
It's like that conversation between Sofia and Eve.
Yes.
Even then, she didn't fully get it. And it's not until this moment and later on that she, the remaining pieces fit together about how despicable he is.
Yeah.
I mean, she says, what did you promise Link? Knowing effectively that Link probably, maybe 6 months, 8 months will be dead because is a threat.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. One other thing that I also love, and it's an action beat, but it also shows you where Oz's mind is. After Frances has her stroke and sees her sons on the other side of the room, she collapses to the ground, hitting her head. Oz uses that as a distraction to get himself out of there and takes his mom with him, of course. But it is used as a distraction. It's the moment where he goes, all right, here's my moment. He's been waiting for a way to get out of here, basically. So it's another little bit of Oz's mind. I know he did think he was saving his mother as well, but he's always a step ahead or always thinking ahead. If I have an opportunity here, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And he does. He takes out all of the guards. Luckily for Julian and Sofia, they get away, but he also goes out and puts a bullet through the eyes of the GCPD detective outside. I know we named him in the synopsis as well, but that's because he also appeared in The Batman. He's a big character for that.
I thought that was hilarious, actually, because yeah, you're right. Not only did Sofia and Julian Rush sort of manage to escape the bullets flying from Oz, but Sofia has a gun. She's shooting at him.
Yeah.
He's waddling out of there with his mum over his shoulder.
And a stab wound from the bottle.
And the stab wound. And you have Detective Marcus Wise adding in his drug drops into his eyes, and then there's just his forehead explodes. And I'm like, that is... I just thought it was a really dark, humorous touch.
It was.
And I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Anything else on this first case note, John?
No, nothing from me. I think we should move on to our case note number 2, the cult of personality.
Our second song title. It's a political song, Cult of Personality. So I thought it'd be a good choice for Oz's big plan. What's he going to do now? He's on the run from Sofia. She found him once. What will he do? And it lands with Victor. Victor is trying to find Oz, thinking that he's dead in the car bomb that hit Crown Point. He brings all the leaders of the other gangs, as Oz told him to, and they all make it known that they're not there for the penguin, they're there for the drugs, and that place is blown up now, so they all leave him. So, but he gets a phone call from Oz and making him go over to the hospital. Victor goes there and talks to Oz, telling him that everything that he's done for Crown Point, giving people jobs, giving them respect for themselves, bringing money back into the area, all of those things are inspirational. All of those things make Oz a better person than he thinks he is. So it's Victor's urging that make him
and the dignity.
Him.
Yeah, he talks about the dignity. He says, yes, the money is important, but you gave them power back and dignity. I really enjoyed this, and I think this is a really important moment in terms of just teeing up how then crestfallen I was with Oz Cobb later on in the episode that, yes, of course, we'll get to. But, you see the loyalty and the passion and the proving of his worth of Victor here in terms of bringing the gangs to effectively help Oz. But it's too late. The explosion's gone off.
Yeah.
And in the end, he's confronted with the greedy truth that is they're only there to make sure that they can sell the drugs and continue to make the money.
Yeah.
They're here for the product, effectively.
I love both of the speeches that Victor makes in these scenes. The speech that he's making to the leaders there is really cool. And then when he gets the punch in the stomach from Ling, the underboss of the triads, he tells him, look, you need to know your place. So just like Oswald has been told all of his life, Victor's being told you need to know your place or else you could get a bullet and that'll be the end of it. You don't have a place.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Love that. And then when he's talking to Oz and convincing him, Oz just looks at him and goes, did you practice that?
Yeah, no. Exactly. But, he calls it, what do you even stand for? You're all cowards. And you see the gang members getting the gun out and you have Link stepping in and making that moment. And that's where I think then in the hospital you get not only the next speech from Victor, but he's effectively telling Oz to pull himself together here, and that it's not just me, but he can see from that exchange that Link also believes in him. And I think this is a really important rhythm in Victor's character here, because you then have them formulating sort of this next big plan. As Oz says, Sofia is expecting a brawl, so we come at her sideways and they head off to City Hall to effectively mix up the situation, throw a bit of chaos,
And it is fantastic. I love this twisting of the truth and the lies together that Oz does to Councilman Haiti, who we saw earlier on in the season, the one that Oz had convinced to get the power back on. We also saw him in the Batman. But this whole thing that he's putting in front of Councilman Haiti is, if you give people the person to blame in this city, if you give them the person to blame for that big car bomb that happened, that big terrorist attack that happened, they're going to love you, and you become the mayor. You become the person that everybody wants to lead them in this city. They want a hero. You give them the villain and you become the hero. So I love it. And the explanation that he comes up with, because I wanted to just call it out, what he says is, the Maronis killed Alberto. Sofia went crazy, so she killed Maroni's wife and son. Maroni is also in charge of Bliss in the city, so Sofia killed him with the car bomb as well. So it's all blamed on crazy Sofia, who just got out of Arkham Asylum, going crazy because Maroni killed her brother. And, well, two of those things were Oz, right? So he just removed himself from it, put Maroni in his place, and then his explanation for what the proof is if you look down there, you'll find lots of bodies of Falcones, which were Oz's men, and you'll find the body of Maroni down there, all in bits and pieces, who Oz killed.
Yeah.
So I love how he threads this lie together, and I love that Councilman Haiti almost calls him out, and he kind of says, how much of this is actually true? And Oz kind of looks up and goes, all of it's true. Yes, all of it's true.
Well, absolutely. And I like that, Councilman Hades there saying, and what is it that you want in return? What is the deal that you're offering here? And he says, to feel welcome in City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this, like you say, Oz's manipulation of the truth here is really, really good. It probably speaks to Councilman Hades' own manipulation of the truth and spin of the truth in politics.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that he kind of retorts back with, if you want to be welcome, you have to look clean.
Yes.
And he goes, clean as a whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this I just really, really enjoyed. I also like that it was cutting back to Victor really taking a bit of a gamble in answering the phone to Link.
Mm-hmm.
And it adds just some really great intrigue, because you're kind of going, are they all going to come bursting in whilst he's speaking with Councilman Haiti, and this is all for nothing?
Yep.
Will his plan be able to live through?
Mm-hmm.
Is he telling the truth, or is there a betrayal here?
Exactly.
What is it? Has Victor picked up on the signals correctly that Link believes in Oz to the extent that he would take a gamble on Oz as opposed to ultimately his boss, Mr. Zhao?
And absolutely at this moment, I thought it was Link going, right, Victor, we need to get Oz. We need to take him out of there. You've got the way in. I'm contacting you, so we get the leg up in this moment, basically. So, but such an interesting conversation between the councilmen. And one of the things I liked about this, again, when they're doing these twists and origin tales, like the Penguin is, and like the Matt Reeves Batman movie is, when they're doing that, it's to set it up for something that you know of the character in the future. And with Penguin, with Oz Cobb, Oswald Cobblepot in the comic books was a very wealthy person, and the Cobblepot family had a very similar stature in Gotham as the Wayne family did, until they lost their money in some of the stories. So he was someone that would rub shoulders with the influential people of Gotham. Very often you'd see that version of him in the comic books. So here we have this version of Oz Cobb coming from a very poor family, very poor background, working his way up to the point where he's now made a deal to be able to rub shoulders with the influential politicians of Gotham, and becoming eventually King of Gotham. So I love that they've done it this way.
Yeah,
it's a nice twist. And even the Gotham version of Oswald Cobblepot was a different type of character. So what you have here is another take on how Oz gets into his position of that high-level influential person in Gotham, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely. Shall we move on to our case note number 3?
Absolutely.
Burning down the house.
This is cool.
It was.
Yeah.
It reminded me very much of the Gremlins, with one of the evil Gremlins with multiple cigarettes in their mouth.
Absolutely. This is really interesting. And I also love that we kind of talked about it a minute ago, that Sofia has offered all of the old Falcone territories, house, the businesses, to whoever brings her effectively the head or the living body of Oz Cobb. And there she is the next time we see her, walking around the house, taking her father's suits out of the wardrobe, throwing them on his bed, setting fire to them with his booze and his cigarettes, basically. So, and then going to his office, setting fire to his office with, again, all of his booze.
Well, that's it. I mean, I actually really like how Mr. Zhao goes, like, what are you actually offering here? Like, there's a slight disbelief in his voice that she's going to offer all the means to control Gotham for as long as they can hold it. in exchange for Oz Cobb, you know,
Yes.
effectively putting a bounty on his head.
But only one of them is the way she says it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
the first one to bring Oz back gets it all. But I love that she's setting fire to one of the
big
biggest
time.
properties in Gotham, you know. And I again, it took me a second to realize what she was actually doing. It was going through each of the rooms in the house that reminded the most of Carmine Falcone, and that's where she's setting the fires to take down the whole house. I think that's, you know, this is her effectively doing what she said she was going to do in front of the family before killing them all. She is burning down everything to do with the Falcone family and walking away. This idea of the Gigante crime family that she's set up has plummeted so quickly after Oz and what he did that she's about to walk away from it. I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah, she's probably wanting to head to Italy, like she was told to do by Johnny Vitti.
Yeah.
You know, interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
The decisions and the turns that we make along the path, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, this was really good. Yeah, I just loved the kind of, just the sense of unhingedness, I think, certainly with the lighting of the 3 cigarettes. I just thought this was really good kind of beat within this episode.
Absolutely. I have to call out the music again, John. During this scene, it's a cover of the song Where Did You Sleep Last Night by Sleigh Bells is the band that did the cover. But a very famous cover of that was Nirvana. And as we definitely remember, if you watched the Batman recently, Nirvana's song goes all the way throughout that in many different versions. So I just like that they chose a Nirvana song to underscore what's happening here with Sofia, even though it isn't their version of it. But I just like that. I wanted to call it.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Let us get into case note number 4.
Yeah, our next musically titled
yes, it's
case note.
All part of the master plan.
It's Oasis, John.
It certainly is.
Because underneath it all, we realize how much of a great student Victor has been of everything that Oz has been doing and telling him for the last 7 episodes of the show and all the time he spent with him, because Vic has made his own plan. Working on the standing on the shoulders of Oz the Giant, who convinced all of the other leaders and all of their underbosses that his plan to get them all working together was the right way to run Gotham from now on. Vic kind of inspires them all to take out their leaders and join up with Oz Cobb. It's fascinating how this all plays out. I thought it was really, really well done. It kicks off at the airport where Oz has been taken by Zhao and the triads, and it's Link that pulls the trigger and takes out his boss.
I like the fact that Sofia says, "Congratulations, Mr. Zhao." You know, it's the most short-lived congratulations ever, as she sees the smirk coming across Oz's face, and you have Link shooting Zhao through the head as Oswald is making his ascendancy here without having to lift anything. And I just think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, and even just Victor being the one that's pulling the gun on Sofia. You know, it was taken earlier on in the season, we were talking about it, that Sofia wouldn't go after someone like Victor because he's just Oz's driver. And it's just interesting that whole turn in here is she underestimated Oz, that he was the one that put her in Arkham the first time, and now she underestimated Victor, and Victor's the one that helped inspire the rest of the underbosses to overthrow their leaders in the city. So she's underestimated another driver. So, and then it does lead to the reuniting or the replaying of the old days as Oz drives Sofia out to the docks.
I really, really love this moment. I like he starts off, what you say that me and you go for a drive. She thinks she's going to her death. But Oz has got different plans. Yeah. And I like the fact when she asks, what did you promise Link, to be turned and for him to shoot his own head of the triads. Oz just turns back and says, because he was tired of being overlooked, something that I thought you would understand. Because for me, I feel it's like he has understood her, but she's actually gone against type, even with all the promises of getting rid of the Falcone name, becoming a Gigante. Like, almost doing very similar things to Oz. I mean, even saying, I'm going to, mix it up a bit, like Oz said. That's what she said in terms of sending the car full of explosives rather than her actually bringing Oz's mum to him directly. Both of them, in a sense, have been doing similar things. So he's kind of saying, would you not thought it would have just been simply, effectively, to allow him to have his shot, have his chance? This is where Sofia actually pins him down, where she just says, Oz Cobb, man of the people. That's what you need to believe.
Yes, because the big difference between Oz and Sofia is, even though she had that conversation with all of the underlings and the guys who weren't made men in the Falcone family, she still set herself up as the leader of the Gigante family and merged herself with the leader of the Moroni family. So She was still relying on some of the old ways, whereas Oz is telling them all, we're all equal here, we all get our fair share, and you're never going to be overlooked again. Yet he is also setting himself up as the person in control, but telling everybody he's the man of the people.
And I mean, ultimately she says, I didn't see you, but your mum did. Your mum always saw a monster. Just connecting back to that whole moment in Monroe's, and I really like that. And I like that she's then thinking she's going to get shot. And ultimately, the close up on her face as you get the lights from the helicopter overhead and the police cars arriving, because actually Oz is not going to kill her. He's making her, like you said, the villain, giving the people someone to hate, the villain. And yeah, really, really good. I love this. And as you say, I think Victor also, his part in it, really, really good.
Absolutely. One other thing in this section that I absolutely loved in the car ride, when we see the other underbosses taking out their leaders. They obviously took inspiration from some major crime movies and gangster movies and TV shows. This felt like the end of The Godfather. This felt like just going out and whacking everybody across the city. And I love that it's just, you see each of them being taken out by an underboss that we've seen in the background. The ones that didn't get lines, the ones that were in the background standing behind as the muscle for their leaders, are the ones that we see taking out their bosses. And it's every single gang leader in the city. So cool. What a moment. Really, really good. But let's get on to our case note number 5, John.
Yes, this is the end.
It's the doors, John.
It certainly is. This is really, really interesting. All the kind of threads have kind of pulled together here at this end. Some of them quite shocking as well.
Oh, yes.
Firstly, we have Sofia back in Arkham State Hospital, and you just wonder, is she going to go absolutely off her trolley here because of that, rather than actually being killed and free from it all? It feels like she's been denied her freedom, not only because she's not been able to take off in the private jet, but because Oz didn't kill her. That look until then Julian Rush comes in with a letter, which seems to suggest that he's offering her some hope here. But I'm like, what is the deal with Julian Rush?
That sounded very Seinfeld there, John.
Yeah,
what's the deal with Julian Rush? Yeah.
It's like, because she's too gone or whatever in Arkham. She's gone into herself with what's happened. She's not really noticing who's giving her mail.
Oh, no, she knows. She knows.
But she's not angry with him. It's not like... And it's also that he's back there working at Arkham. We know that he had left Arkham previously.
Yes, because of the senior medical officer's treatment of Sofia.
So he's back now working with her. So either he's totally infatuated with her, but has not lifted anything to help her. So I'm really intrigued with Dr. Julian Rush. I think it's the one bit that is not fully explained and could be included in a season 2.
It could be. Okay, we have some theories and we're going to talk about them. Number one, I love Theo Rossi. We love Theo Rossi.
Absolutely.
We loved him back in on his days in Luke Cage. But he is an actor that in need of a big breakout role, the one that makes you a household name in the Batman movies, in the same way that Paul Dano, being Riddler, made him a big household name. I think this could be leading to something for Theo Rossi in Batman 2. We kind of mentioned before, he was in the background only with Sofia for so much of the season this season that you felt like maybe Theo Rossi came on late, so they just filmed some extra scenes to build him up a bit more. But his moments with Francis at the beginning of the episode, where he's the one that's able to extract that information from her, kind of reminds me a little bit of what the Mad Hatter does, where he's able to get into the mind of other people a bit more than your average psychologist or psychiatrist. It feels like Julian's controlling him in some way, and just that mention of, when you find Oz, let me use my methods on him, makes it sound like it's almost a power in this more realistic, grounded version of the Batman verse. So maybe the Mad Hatter is one of my predictions.
Cool.
My other one is, because we have 2 live action Harley Quinns going out there. We have Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn in the Joker 2, and we have Margot Robbie already played her in live action in a couple of movies as well. I wonder if they're doing that story of a psychiatrist who falls in love with their criminally insane patient, the Joker and Harley Quinn, if they're doing that with Sophia Falcone or Sofia Gigante and Dr. Julian Rush. So is he Harley Quinn, a version of that, you know, or at least that maybe it's where the inspiration came from. But I think there's more to be seen from Theo Rossi, and I would love to see him get the big role that he deserves in a big movie, because I know he's done loads of TV and people know him from loads and loads of shows and loads of work that he's done. But I'd love to see him get that big movie role that he so deserves, because he's such a great actor.
Absolutely. And of course, that letter then that I mentioned is from Selena Kyle.
Yes, it is.
Who believes that she's a half-sister.
She is.
Oh, she is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But she's writing to tell Sophia Falcone this.
And this is really interesting because we know from the Batman that Selena Kyle knows everything about the Iceberg Lounge, so she knows what happened with Carmine. She knows he has a proclivity for murdering women by choking them to death. She knows that Oz was a very duplicitous character, so she knows all about that. So I wonder if, Selena Kyle and Sofia Gigante, could they team up and go up against Oz Cobb,
It's a really nice, intriguing prospect.
Yeah, because it feels like, we didn't see the letter, of course, but it feels like the reason why...
2.
Yeah, but it feels like the reason why Selena would reach out is because she feels Sophia is innocent because of all the knowledge she has about the family and the other residents of Gotham. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. And I think the other things here for me, and, I think it is the realization that Oz Cobb is despicable on a number of different levels.
Absolutely.
And in some ways, I kind of quite like it because Oz goes back to celebrate with his mom, but she's still in a coma, and you have the nurse saying that, she had a huge, massive stroke and is in a vegetative state.
Yeah.
He's there like, I did it, I'm the effing king, and all this kind of stuff. And it's almost like it's the last bit of power that Frances has, that she can't actually verbalize her approval to give him what he feels he wants, or is the only reason that he has had for keeping her around.
Exactly.
Exactly. So
he wants to fulfill that promise that he made to her when he was a kid. And it doesn't matter how sick she gets, how ill she gets, how much she needs to have medical help in the home at all times. He wants to keep her close to him so that she can say, I'm proud of you for giving me that thing that you told me you'd give me when you were a kid. You know what I mean? It's more like that conversation that they had with Sophia. It's more about that than him wanting to keep his mom around because he loves her so much and wants to keep her safe. It's that he wants her to be around when he becomes the big shot that he promised he would become. And
Absolutely.
She cannot respond to him.
Absolutely.
What a
and
moment.
That's when you realize he's despicable. And even just later on where he's like, here, you've got your view, but she's effectively in a coma state, Yeah,
I wanted to talk about that.
Okay, interesting.
I wonder if Frances is actually, I think you said it in the synopsis, if she's immobile and non-verbal rather than unable to understand what's going on around her. Because I feel like that would almost be the prophecy of what happened between herself and Oz earlier on in the season when she was in the bath and couldn't get out. And she told Oz, I want you to end my life if I get to the point where I'm in a vegetative state and have only the awareness to know that I can't do anything I want to do. And she's there in the bed with this penthouse view that he promised her years ago as a kid. And you see the tears coming down her eyes when Oz is looking at her and saying, how are you doing today, Ma? Probably a bit better than yesterday.
Yeah.
And she knows she's in that state exactly as she had foreseen, and Oz didn't carry out the promise that he made to her to end her life.
But that to me has that sort of darkly poetic sense to it. And again, it's, as say, here, these final moments, you really are just being told how despicable of a person this is, let alone that we know that he killed his brothers, he hid the truth from his mother, isn't able to verbalize that truth in any way. It's so ingrained and has become the truth, probably, even in his own mind. He's self-deluded himself. Yes, he does know, but the tale he's spun that they went off to the cinema, he left them and they were fine, has deluded him. And I think this is really like significant sort of wrap-ups, but in a way that paints Oz in the worst light, and possibly in full light, in full truth-revealing light. And I think, coming to the one that really, really also hurt me was killing Victor, strangling him. Effectively, Victor is too loyal, too close, too good. And there was a moment where I think, did Victor seal his own demise in being strangled because he says, you're like family to me, when he says that to Oz? And it's not really. Oz is set on a path here. Yes, he's like saying, I couldn't do any of this without you. You did good, kid. And, he says, you've been there by my side, but I can't bring me with you this time. There is a respect there, in a sense, from Oz.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's the respect of knowing who's your threat and taking them out before they do.
Well, absolutely. He says family brings you strength, but also weakness, and I can't have that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
What's been happening throughout the series really is that Sophia's come at him through his family. She's come at him through his mother. He doesn't have any other family, and in fact had told everybody that his mother was dead, right? We heard that earlier on in the season. He'd already told Sophia that Francis was dead, so she wasn't even looking for Francis until she found out that she was alive. And somebody else in the future will try and twist that knife. Somebody else will try and take Victor, who has now become the only family that is around and available to Oz. So he takes him out.
But that's it. I mean, this whole end, it's really Shakespearean. I mean, in terms of what this... this is Julius Caesar to some extent, but actually it's Caesar taking Brutus out before he can do anything. And I think that's the point of it.
Yeah. But just the added, kick in the teeth almost of it, where he takes Victor's wallet from his dead body, takes the money out of the wallet, and takes the driving license, which was the first thing he read when Victor was driving for the first time, the driver's license that Victor had in his wallet, and throws that driver's license into Gotham Bay. It's just the disrespect that he leaves behind for Victor Aguilar. Yeah. He told him in the past, your name and my name will be written in lights. People will tell stories about us. Now, this kid who has no family, he's removed his identity, has no family left in the city, and nobody will ever know who this body is. That I can't imagine he has fingerprints on file or anything.
Whilst he's saying you're a good man with a good heart. No, it's whilst he's strangling him, but it's almost so Titus Andronicus here. It's the power play, it's the politics play, it's the wheeling and dealing. It is that it's all about him, and I think not only that, there's real Oedipus complex here. Then later with when you see Eve, who really does. I mean, the makeup, the dress,
Yep.
the hairstyling, really great. That, you know, from that distance, she looks like Francis Cobb. But that Oedipus complex, really, and alluded to by Rex Callibrasi as well.
Yeah.
That's Cobb's father figure, his mother.
Yeah.
And again, really quite unsettling, slightly disturbing, after he's just been in with his own actual mother, who's in this coma, and there you have Eve dressed like his mother, being asked to pretend to be his mother, and you know, being told to whisper the pep talk, the sweet nothings into the ear of Oz Cobb.
Tell him she's proud of him. Exactly what Oz wanted his mom to say.
Exactly.
All these years. It's really unsettling. And wasn't Colin Farrell right when he told us that by the end of this series, everybody's going to hate Penguin? Nobody's going to want to be around this guy. And it's truly everything that he does here is awful. He is the true villain. He is a proper villain going into Batman 2.
Totally.
So it's fabulous. It's absolutely so well written and so interesting. But yes, he is truly a villain. I do really worry for Eve. I feel like this isn't the first time that Oz has asked her to do that. And part of the conversation that she had with Sofia when Sofia visited her house to get that information out on Oz, there's just some interesting moments in that discussion where she kind of says Oz isn't that complicated a person, but I know him and I know what he likes, basically. And it feels like this is what he wants. He probably doesn't want to have her as a sex worker. He doesn't want to have her for sex. He wants to have her dress up as his mom and tell him that she's proud of him. You know, that feels like an Oz Cobb thing. That's what he wants. That's more important to him than anything else. That someone is proud of him, that someone loves him.
But that's it. And I think that's what's really good with the ending here then, when, you know, Eve is saying Gotham's yours, nothing stands in your way now. As the camera is pulling back on the, you know, the apartment block and the penthouse of that, and you see the bat symbol rising and shining in the sky over Gotham.
So cool.
I just really, really nicely done.
Yeah. Fantastic. The other reason I'm a bit worried for Eve, though, as well, is because, well, Sofia found out where Oz was keeping his mom and Victor because of her conversation with Eve, and that's why Oz killed Victor, was because they can come at him through Victor. So if he ever finds out that Eve's the reason why Sofia found his mom, well, I don't think she's too long for this world either.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Wow, what an episode.
Completely.
What a brilliant final moment.
Really, really good.
Yeah. Any notes in the episode, John?
The only note from me is that we do see Oz with his top hat as he comes to his apartment block.
We see him in his full comic book regalia.
Yeah.
He's wearing his proper costume from the comic, except for the top hat, which, as you say, he's holding in his hand. I think he puts it on top of an umbrella when he comes into the penthouse apartment as well. That's where he stores his hat. So while we didn't see Oz with an umbrella throughout the season, he does have everything available to him to become the Penguin from the comic books. No monocle. That's the only thing that he doesn't have, right?
Yes, no monocle.
One thing I really liked, I've been playing a lot of the Batman games over the last couple of years. Penguin has been played with a British accent, either upper class or lower class British accent, usually like a London-y type accent. It's an interesting choice here that they have an Irish actor playing a New York Bronx type accent for Oz Cobb, bringing him back to being working class American, basically. I think that's quite an interesting choice for this season, but I just noticed it because I've been playing the games a little bit over the last couple of days. So. And one more for me, I mentioned at the top about the cameos that they have in the show from the Batman. You know, people like Detective Wise and the Councilman. Interesting that they did have a moment of Bella Real as well. The newly crowned mayor at the end of the Batman is in a scene in this episode, but Oz looking at her from afar. It's almost what I said. It's almost... You can have her in the background, but if you had Oz interact with her, that would mean it's really the movie, and that he could also interact with Batman in this TV show. But if you have Bella Real kind of out of reach, then it shows Oz isn't at that level yet. So, so I just like that little touch. And he was kind of saying, in the future, this is the deal that he has with Councilman Haiti, that he will be able to be in the same room as her and she'll listen to him. So,
definitely.
Yeah. Last one for me, just to mention, because a very famous Irish poet is involved in this one. The episode title, A Great or Little Thing, is from the Oscar Wilde poem, The Ballad of Reading Gaol. The verse that it's in reads, I never saw a man who looked with such a wistful eye upon that little tent of blue, which prisoners called the sky, and at every drifting cloud that went with sails of silver by, I walked with other souls in pain within another ring, and was wondering if the man had done a great or little thing, when a voice behind me whispered low, that fella's got a swing. Great touch, because again, this is something that could apply to Sofia, because she's obviously in prison. What's she in there for? Has she done a great or little thing? And that she has to swing. And also, it could apply to Penguin himself. He's done a great thing here, a massive thing in the city of Gotham, and he's also killed the person closest to him as well. A great and little thing, I suppose. So, love it, and I also love that it's Oscar Wilde as well, one of our favourite poets. We took a photograph with, his statue, at least, because he's been gone a long time, for our wedding. Yeah.
Love Oscar Wilde.
Love him. And that brings us to our final rating. John, how do you rate the episode?
5 fag 5s out of 5.
5 fag 5s?
Yeah.
Fag 3s out of 5.
Well, I guess so, but I just fag 5.
Okay. I like it. And does that translate to the whole series, or is it this episode?
It's for this episode. I think this is a really wonderful final episode. Despite all the things that may be just tipping you to think that Oz Cobb is not as bad as they say he is, possibly he might not have all the luck in the world, you realize he is just despicable.
Yeah.
You realize that actually his best quality is cunning and ruthlessness to anyone.
And the most important person in the entire world is him.
Yes, exactly.
Nobody else. Just him.
I just loved this. Absolutely gutted that Victor and Oz's relationship is gone, but not surprising. It totally makes sense that Oz would do this. As I say, the line that your family is your greatest strength and also can be your weakness, and I can't have that anymore going forward. Like, it totally makes sense. Eve, I mean, the whole ending of, the flip of Sofia being back in Arkham Hospital, the whole thing with Eve and Oz's kind of seeming Oedipus complex, really, really unsettling, actually, but like so fantastic that the show is doing this. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I think it pulled everything together. That opening between Oz and Francis in the Monroe is so tense. It sets Oz up to expose exactly who he is, and I think, fair dues to everyone involved here. So good. I can't really praise it highly enough, and that's why I give it 5 fag 5s out of 5.
Fantastic. Yeah, huge praise specifically to Lauren LeFranc, and I know she pulled together a team that worked everything to do this. It's amazing to think that this show had started before the writer's strike and the director's strike last year, and they took, I think it was a 3 or 4 month break during the season, and then came back and filmed the last couple of episodes of the show. And the quality that's remained in the show has just been fantastic. Give Lauren LeFranc all the work. James Gunn, you're now in charge of the DC Universe. Bring her back. Make her do something else in the DC Universe. Or whatever else she wants to do, of course. Hopefully we'll see
in fairness to Matt Reeves, for choosing her to be the showrunner and the lead here for this show in the Bat universe that he's got control of.
Absolutely.
Whatever about James Gunn, so far, other than his own movies, I haven't seen him being sort of the conductor for the DC-verse.
That's right. So, the first one of those, The Creature Commandos, is coming out in December, an animated show. The first
is that Creature's gone commando?
Maybe. Knowing James Gunn, perhaps.
Possibly.
But that's coming out next month in December.
Don't get me wrong, I love James Gunn. I've really enjoyed his stuff, and he's made me want to watch things that I never thought I would want to, like Peacemaker.
Yeah. like the DC universe of movies. No, I'm sorry, I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm
like
joking.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Really, really good. So I'm looking forward to what he's going to do. But I have to say, on the darker side of it, in Gotham, Matt Reeves and indeed Lauren LeFranc have done fantastic stuff here.
Absolutely. I'm a huge Batman fan, and this is one of the best things I've seen in that Batman universe, and one of the best shows I've seen this year as well. I really, really loved this show, and I've really loved talking about it with you, John. So let's raise a glass, and let's head on over to the Iceberg Lounge, because I think we need to do that, John.
Yes, indeed we do. Fellow Gothamites, fellow quizzers, welcome to the Iceberg Lounge. It's final orders. It is question 8. And the question is, where does Sofia meet Mr. Zhao to exchange Oz Cobb?
Ooh, yes, we want the full detailed answer for this as well.
Full name of the airport and the number of the hangar.
Oh, okay, great. You're giving the tips this time, John. Great stuff. Do you want to give the question one more time?
Yes, where does Sofia meet Mr. Zhao to exchange Oz Cobb?
Fantastic. That's the 8th question of 8 for our Penguin Iceberg Lounge quiz. Get all your correct answers in now to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. The person with the correct answers could be in with a chance of getting their hands on some Penguin goodies.
They certainly can. Good luck, fellow quizzers and fellow Gothamites.
Absolutely. Let's get over to some feedback from our wonderful fellow Gothamites on our Criminal Columns feedback section. First up, we have an email in from Coffee and Vodka who says, "Greetings, fellow Cabbage Patch defenders. Inasmuch as we could expect anything, this was it. Oswald on top with a great view of the bat signal. The cat and mouse between the Penguin and Lady Luna ends here for now, but with more productions to go, we'll see. Sophia's too great a character to shelve. No tears spilled for Vic. As soon as he said the F word, family, you knew the inevitable outcome. From start to ending, both for this episode and season, a wonderfully tight and suspenseful package. MVP's got to be Colin. 4.5 Emperor Penguins, victorious victims, and sisterly reunions out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka."
Excellent stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Totally agree. Really superb show here.
Yeah.
And the episode and the season as well.
Yeah. I really hope we see Sofia Gigante back.
I think so. And I think in the sense that she's shelved in Arkham. So she's shelved in character in Arkham, ready to burst out with the Riddler and maybe the Joker.
Exactly.
Well, I think both. Yeah. I'm glad they've kept them alive because they can always come back.
Exactly.
It could be like the worst like Avengers Assemble ever.
It could be.
All the villains bursting out of Arkham.
That would be awesome.
You know?
It would be awesome. It's what people loved about the Arkham Asylum games.
Definitely. So good stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Absolutely. And your email completely changes all of the Fast and Furious movies because the F word family has said quite a lot in those as well. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks so much. We also got an email in from Meryl Smith who says, "Greetings, waddlers and waddler enthusiasts, and welcome to the finale of The Penguin. Let's get this out of the way up top. Hats off to everyone involved that came together to deliver a spectacular spectacle of a show. Mm-hmm. First things first, Sofia really does know how to organise one hell of a therapy session for Oswald and Francis. Deirdre O'Connell delivers a captivating performance throughout the entire episode. Even when she's motionless, you still get something from her to convey exactly what she's feeling. Mm-hmm. Something interesting that I realised is that Sofia won, but in a different, more unique way. While Oz is the last man standing on top, it's like the Thanos meme. What did it cost? Everything. The worst prisons are the ones that you build for yourself, and this is the one that Oz has always been creating from childhood to now. Special shout out to Renzi Feliz, who plays Victor. He's come a long way since I last saw him in Runaways. He's really brought this character to life in all these captivating ways, but he was doomed for a tragic end. This has been borrowed time at best. Love that speech that he gives Oz earlier in the episode. It really shows how far of a journey that he's gone through and the potentially could have, but there are no happy endings in this story. Such a heartbreaking scene, and all Victor can say is Oz and please, one of which was what he said when they first met, bringing it full circle. Also, 2 details that I noticed. Oz takes Sal's ring in the last episode and in this one. The way he kills Vic is how Carmine killed his victims, so he's essentially took elements from different crime bosses and blended them together. And lastly, our dark hero, Sofia Gigante, who, as I stated, won over Oz in a psychological battle that left him pretty shattered and broken in a lot of ways, while she actually is stronger in different ways than he is. I like that effigy burning of the Falcone house. It was almost like a full cleansing of her past and trying to move forward, although it makes the frame job against her work better, but nothing in life is perfect. Am I right? It was halfway through the season when I realized she wasn't going to die. The fate worse than death play is always the worst than can be bestowed upon someone. Although there may be a light at the end of the tunnel for Sofia in the form of Selina Kyle. I was expecting a cameo of Batman, but this works better, as this story is about the Penguin's rise, and now he's on top. His downfall begins now. 5 effigy burnings of the past, frame jobs disguised as executions, sister reunions incoming, reminders that Batman exists, and mothers trapped in a living hell out of 5. Oof. Excellent stuff there, Meryl. I am totally with you on Victor, both in terms of just how he's played that second fiddle to Oz, but has learnt from the best, is almost, the threat as well as the family. And I agree. I loved him in The Runaways as well, but it's a different type of story, and it shows some really good acting chops from him. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, he was just fantastic.
Oh, well, it really hooked me into this series. All the different relationships have, and I think that's why I've really enjoyed it. And the reason I always kind of keep picking Victor and Oz Cobb above, say, Oz and Sofia, even though, again, that's just absolutely perfect to me, is because the Oz and Victor one is so unexpected.
Yes. Yeah.
I never thought that would be where I'm kind of rooting for someone to succeed. And I mean, I think, like you say, it's, in a sense, he chose his fate because he didn't get on the bus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he could have been on the other side over in LA with his girlfriend.
And I'm still like, my notes for this episode just says like Darth Vader, like, no.
Well, exactly.
So yeah, really good stuff. Thanks, Meryl.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Meryl, for your thoughts. Over on Facebook, Patrick Lemke says, very refreshingly avant-garde to have a character so disgustingly evil and irredeemable as the main character. It's a story first and foremost, and if the character is evil to the core, if it is given a reason in a well-written way, that's good enough for me. Solid miniseries.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Yeah, completely with that assessment.
It doesn't need to be one of those redemption arcs for villain stories. There's too many of them. There's lots of villains out there too. Let's tell their story of villains.
And despite all the disgustingly evil and irredeemable aspect of it, there's still moments where you kind of want to root for him. And you're like, but it's in this final assessment where he's just the worst to the people that should be the ones that care about him the most, or do care about him the most, or he should be looking after the most. He is despicable.
Well, exactly. Exactly. And the show made a great choice to have Victor in there, so you could root for Victor, not feel too bad about that.
Exactly. Exactly. Great stuff. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick.
Also, Victor Von Doom says, I loved everything in this series, except Vic's demise, of course. Emmy nominations all around for this one. Totally agree, Victor. Totally agree. Thanks for the comment.
Thanks, Victor.
Also, Becky Anderson says, this finale solidified for me. This is the best show in 2024. Incredible ending. So many incredible, suspenseful, heartbreaking, and shocking moments. Frances living with the truth of what happened to her sons. Oz taking out Vic. I did not expect that. Sophia ending up in her worst nightmare back in Arkham. Oz's every word and move proved why he rose to be the king of Gotham. Don't ever underestimate Oz Cobb. I appreciate the story being left open with Selina's letter to Sofia and the bat signal flashing just as Oz says nothing can stop him now. To the entire cast and crew, I tip my top hat to you all. Absolutely brilliant, and I hope come awards season this show gets the credit it so rightly deserves. Absolutely, Becky Anderson. I'm totally with you there, 100%. This is a superb show. For me, is my best show in 2024 so far. Did not expect the Vic takeout either. And yeah, just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's absolutely right up there at the top for me. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. I love dramas. I love crime dramas. I love Batman. It's ticking so many boxes for me and went way beyond. And hey, it has an Irish star. So
absolutely,
we got to love it as well for that as Irish podcasters.
Definitely. Yeah, he really is so good in it. Like there's a moment where he's walking out of City Hall and I think it's like, it's before you have his silhouette with the city in front when he's atop the stairs, but he's walking across like the huge entrance hallway. Yeah. And his lean back and his walk as he's moving, to me, is so Oswald Cobblepot. It looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Just the gait of his walk, the limp within it, and the fact that he wasn't kind of stood up. It was almost like leaning back and walking. It looked like something out of one of the graphic novels. Right. It was superb. Just that sort of distant sort of look at Oswald Cobblepot.
That's the moment where he sees Mayor Villarreal
just after
well.
that, after that. And he walks across to go outside.
Interesting.
Really thought that was a nice. There's something about that and how it was done, how it was set up, and the way Colin Farrell does the walk is just really good.
I think he probably that was probably intentional as well. I didn't mention this. Someone was trying to convince me that the scene where he's sitting in the room talking to the councilman, that all of the curtains around him look like L's in the shape of L's, so it's supposed to be a reference to Court of Owls. I don't see it, but go check it out. Tell me if you see it.
I kind of get where they're coming from, but it could equally be a bat or...
I just think it's curtains. That's how curtains hang. But maybe they're trying to make a reference to Court of Owls.
Maybe.
But someone was saying that was a deep cut Easter egg. You know those videos that they have, the 165 Easter eggs? It's like that coffee cup over there was used on another show. Those kind of ones.
No,
that's what it felt like to me.
Oh, okay. Grand.
Well, thanks so much for your thoughts, Becky.
Yeah, thanks, Becky.
Mike Zomkowski says, oh man, best ending of a show in many years. Hit me with a few twists, hate rooting for Oz, and they made it really tough the last 2 episodes. Bring on the next phase of DC.
Definitely.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Richard Blaze says, wow, that was some damn fine TV, but I think everyone has added why it was just so phenomenal. I'm just in awe.
Excellent stuff, Richard.
Oh, thanks,
Glad
Richard.
you enjoyed. Yeah,
Absolutely,
is very awesome.
It is. And Richard's been around all the way, the last 10 years watching Gotham.
Yes,
and
indeed.
All the rest of the shows with us. So thanks for your thoughts, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And finally, on Facebook, Philippe Florencio says, what a dark twist at the end for the Vic character. I should, but I didn't expect that to happen. Great show, amazing characters. I'm looking forward to the Matt Reeves universe to continue and hopefully to expand beyond the following The Batman sequel. Colin Farrell is also so great being the Penguin that I have to consciously remind myself sometimes that he is the actor below the makeup. And the silver lining after this bleak finale is that we will most likely have Kristen Milioti, Sofia acting alongside Zoe Kravitz's Selina in the future. 5 out of 5 top hats for me. Excellent stuff, Felipe.
Absolutely. How cool would that be? I'd love to see the two of them together.
Oh, it must be. It must be.
I hope so. Crossing everything. I know still writing going on. Filming's supposed to be happening next summer for the Batman 2. So hopefully they're going to incorporate some of the ideas from the Penguin into that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? In Marvel, that would be some kind of post-credit or mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
And actually, there is a reason why you just should have your story in the story.
Well, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's just another dimension to the ending that really weights it up, do you know?
Yeah.
and doesn't just kind of immediately separate it. Now, you probably could have done that in this case, given it's in prison, but you know, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. I love things that differentiate DC and Marvel, and I'm glad that they can be just great TV shows now. Let's move away from the time when you'd go to a DC movie in the cinema and worry that you'd have wasted some money. So we're having a great time now. We have Marvel doing good stuff, DC doing great stuff. Let's keep the trend going for both.
Indeed.
That's all of our feedback. Thank you so much to everybody that's been sending us feedback for The Penguin throughout the series. If you do have any thoughts on the series as a whole, when you've had a chance to think about it, please send them in to us, along with your answers, of course, to the Iceberg Lounge quiz, and we will chat about them on our wrap-up podcast in a couple of weeks' time. We're going to take a little bit of a break from Penguin, so probably give you about 2 weeks to send in your answers to the pub quiz, and we will have our Penguin wrap-up podcast out a couple of weeks' time.
Yes, we certainly will. We will be up next, though, with our Agatha All Along wrap-up podcast. So if you were following along with us and listening to our podcast for Agatha All Along, please make sure to tune in for that.
Yep, that should be out next week. The Agatha All Along Assembled will be coming apparently on the 14th of November. We're away this weekend, so we can't record this weekend, but we'll hopefully record next week and wrap up the Agatha All Along Coven quiz.
Yes, and staying in the Marvel universe, we will be covering season 3 of What If
The
as
final
well.
season, yeah.
The final What If. So looking forward to that. Really enjoyed the What If series of animation on Marvel. And that, along with our Penguin wrap-up. So stay tuned to all things TV podcast industries over the next while.
Absolutely. One last one we should mention. In wrap-ups is that we just did a wrap-up of The Rings of Power, season 2. We did a crossover wrap-up with our friends over on Podcastica. It was so epic, we had to break it into 2 parts. Part 1 is over on podcastica.com, and the second part is on tvpodcastindustries.com. So to get the whole experience, you'll have to pop on over to Podcastica and to TVPI.
Indeed. We're doing so much wrapping up, anyone would think it's coming into...
It's coming to Christmas, exactly.
But, of course, fellow Gothamites... please stay subscribed to the podcast. And of course, please, if you can, support us either over on patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries or buymeacoffee.com/TVPI, or indeed, and this is the best one, support us by subscribing to the podcast and sharing the podcast with your friends, family, and relatives, and pet penguins, I guess. Because, of course, sharing the podcast is sharing
sharing the love, absolutely. And no, we don't think of family the same way Oswald does. Yes. You are our strength, not our weakness that we want to take care of. Thanks so much for joining us. Great to be back with Gotham. Hopefully we'll be doing some more of this in the future as more projects are announced. So keep subscribed. Talk to you soon.
Yes, thanks so much, fellow Gothamites, for joining us for our coverage of The Penguin. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep waddling. Wah wah.
Bye.
Bye. Meanwhile, Victor Aguilera
says his hips don't lie. Oh no, that's not him.
Christina.
What would Victor Aguilera sing?
Party. Da, 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 da.
When I get dirty, that's the one. Yeah.
There's another great Christina Aguilera song as well. Anyway.
Hey, is the Just Eat advert?
No.
Okay. All right, back to it.